Hi, welcome to this QuickBooks video. We're still looking at the series using QuickBooks in the ag industry. And what we want to look at in this video are some of the options that we have as far as budgeting. Now, QuickBooks has a budgeting feature. You'll find it here on the company drop-down menu. There's a section here, planning and budgeting, and it gives us the opportunity there to set up budgets. In setting up a budget, so if there's no budgets already set up in that company file, this is the screen we'll get to create a new budget. And we decide what year it is that we want to use in our budget. We decide if we want this to be a budget for the profit and loss report or for the balance sheet. There is a place for budgets for the balance sheet, but most people by far are using the profit and loss option, because that's going to compare actual results as far as income and expense accounts go to the budget, and that's what most people are looking for. So we're going to leave that option, and I'm going to click Next. We have the opportunity to create a budget for what QuickBooks calls a customer job. Could be a project. In previous videos and in previous blog posts, we've talked about perhaps using crops or fields as a customer job or as a project. We could do that here. We could make that designation here and create that kind of budget if we wanted to. We can also do a budget by class if you're using the class feature in QuickBooks. Let's use that option, and then let's move ahead. So we can create a budget from scratch. We can create a budget from the previous year's actual data, that is, pull in the actual numbers from last year, and then we can move those numbers up and down to create our budget for this year. I'm going to leave it on this option here, Create Budget from Scratch, and click Finish. Now, this is the screen that we have. There are not a lot of there aren't any really advanced budgeting tools or anything like that in QuickBooks. It's just basically plugging the numbers in to the different spaces that we have. So we have our accounts along the left side here in this column, and then we have the columns for each month of the year. So we have 12 here because we're on a calendar year, so we're going from January to December. Here's where I'll decide what class it is that we're creating the budget for. So I could pick the number 2 ranch. In our sample file here for agriculture, we have 3 different locations, and we've labeled those as 1 ranch, 2 ranch, and 3 ranch. So to start our budget, we could decide our sales might be 15,000 and maybe 20,000 and so forth. So we could continue on where we think what months we think that income will happen and how much we think income we will have. And once we have our income, then we have all of our expenses. So how much our fertilizer is going to cost us, how much our herbicide is going to cost us, and so forth. We can make our estimate for that. There are a couple of helps here to make this a little bit easier if you have something that is fairly constant from one month to another. So what could I pick here? I could pick liability insurance, and let's use $150, and then to say copy across, and then QuickBooks will copy that amount to all the other months. Another option that we have is this Adjust Row Amounts button here. Let me drag that back over to this screen. There we go. So we can increase each monthly amount by a certain percentage. We can decrease each monthly amount by a certain percentage. So there's a couple of little helps there, but you have to have items or account amounts, I guess I should say, that are fairly constant across all months in order to use even this tool. So once we completed all of our numbers in this grid, we would save our budget. It's going to name it fiscal year 2018 profit and loss by account and class. Say OK. and now we have a budget. So I have gone ahead and I filled in that budget with a few more numbers so that you didn't have to sit and watch me do that. And I wanted you to get a look at a couple of the reports that you have available that will compare budget numbers to actual. One is this profit and loss budget performance. This is a good report if you are looking at results by the month over a period of time, because we have a column for actual, we have a column for the budget, then we have a year to date column and the year to date budget. Now, these are showing the same numbers because I ran this report for the entire year. I told QuickBooks in this field right up here that says show columns, I chose total only rather than showing each month at a time. Each month at a time gives us a report with a lot of columns. I didn't want to try to show that here in the video. Anyway, that's one of the reports available to you. But I want to show you the other one, because often people want to look at how much over budget or under budget are we. And that's this report, profit and loss budget versus actual. So again, I chose the option to look at total only rather than month by month. And so for the year, here was our crop income, $336,096, and our budget was $330,000. So here's how much over budget we are for that. Now, one thing I had to do, since I only want to look at one class, because we set up the budget for just number 2 ranch, right? So I have to tell QuickBooks by going to this customize report, filters. I have to tell QuickBooks that I want to filter this by class. I only want to look at number 2 ranch. So if I make that choice, then I'm only looking at the number 2 ranch transactions in the actuals column and comparing it to that budget that we created, and we intended, of course, for those numbers to be for the number 2 ranch only. So that's a little overview of how the budgeting feature works in QuickBooks. It's useful. It could be helpful to you. There's another idea that we have about budgeting that I want to show you that I think might be a better choice for most people.